Hey guys, this is George Sawtooth. Another crazy video from this fat guy. Used to have a radio show in Johnstown. At one point I had a show about United Flight 629. Phil Burley called in and learned who that guy was. His parents were managers of Johnson's Corner. And where I am at right now is the Flight 629, United Flight 629, which the bodies were recovered right over here. In a previous video I said 55, it's actually 44. Not sure, you know, I was listening to Sammy Hagar. I can't drive 55, so that 55 was kind of in my head. Right over here, here's my old red Pontiac that I drive around. It's not the FJB edition, but my Tacoma's FJB edition. Right over here, that airplane was going in a northwesterly direction, so the tail landed right over here. I have a previous video that shows where that tail landed. And over here, the trees, that's the Lang farm. In a previous video, I had misinterpreted that as the Rodemaker farm, but that's actually the Lang farm. And the Langs, I guess, also farmed south of here. So this video is basically for posterity. Right here is Ronald Reagan Boulevard. Back in the old days, it was County Road 28. County Road 28. And then this road over by that, see that white dairy over there? That road that goes, that's Colorado Boulevard, or County Road 13. And way over there, that's Highway 66. And then over here is County Road 11. And see those trees right over there? That was the Rodemaker farm. And then those trees over there, that was the hop farm. And then those trees right there, that's the Harold Heil farm. And man, you guys have some noisy damn vehicles, I tell you. That thing sounds like it's going 100 miles an hour, but it's going like 30 miles an hour. And then over here, right over here, I made some videos of Jake Heil's farm, and that's all been demolished. The hop farm has been demolished. The Rodemaker farm has been demolished. I tried to get a couple of Rodemakers to come and do a video with me and but they were all on board, but then they decided, no, we don't want to be on camera, I guess. But so Rodemaker farm, hop farm, Harold Heil farm, Jake Heil farm, Lang farm. This is the Flight 629 debris field. And so I have this article. People are probably thinking, who's this crazy guy out here? Who's this insane clown posse guy out here? So I have this article that I wrote. It's supposed to be in a local newspaper. And yeah, I'm friends with the lady. Her dad died in Flight 629. Marion Peppelmeyer. She wrote a book, Finding My Father. And I had contacted this local newspaper, and we were going to submit but Marion thought that she should submit her own articles, which she did. But I don't. That's no big deal. So I was going to read my article today here on this side of Flight 629. So here it goes. I'll try the best I can. On November 1st, 1955, the Rodemakers, Hops, Langs, and Heil families were all finally settling down for an evening after a long day, when around 7:03 p.m. suddenly several loud explosions barreled through the tranquil evening, and fireballs came raining down to these four farms near Highway 66 and County Road 13. Conrad Hop and Kenneth Hop, along with Harold Heil and Jack Brubaker. So these guys, Harold Heil, he had a couple, he had a family live with him. They lived in a house just south of his house. I think they were the hired hands, but his name was Jack Brubaker, and his wife's name was Daisy Brubaker. So they all went out and immediately run into the scene to find a heap of burning wreckage and bodies of passengers. This 640-acre parcel of land where sugar beets and other crops was the conclusive crash of Flight 629, a flight from Stapleton Airport in Denver to Portland, Oregon. Daisy King was on that flight. That crazy lady, she was going to Alaska to see her daughter. She was going to go caribou hunting. Can you believe a lady go caribou hunting? She must have been a tough lady. A total of 44 people, 39 passengers, and 5 crew members lost their lives because of Jack or John. His name is Jack or John. Jack Gilbert Graham, whose main goal was to end the life of his mother, Daisy King, in order to collect $37,500 worth of insurance policies purchased from a vending machine at Stapleton Airport. Jack Graham had placed a bomb of 25 sticks of dynamite on a timer and hid it in his mother's suitcase in order to bring down the flight. This flight with his mother, Daisy King. 7 minutes later, after takeoff, this DC-6B, it's a DC-6B, it was a prop airplane. This is the days when there were jet engines, but all the jet engines were like military engines. So passenger jets really didn't have jet engines. So these were like kind of the final days of props. This was blown apart in two with the tail landing south of County Road 28, while the fuselage landed north of County Road 28 and south of Highway 66, which is just right here. The site of this horrific burning metal and charred bodies were branded in memories of Kenneth Hopp, Conrad Hopp, Harold Heil, and Jack Brubaker as they ran through the wreckage trying to find any remnants of life. These guys were finding any remnants of life. At first they didn't even know it was a passenger jet. The hours and days and the events that unfolded after this horrific incident would leave an indelible mark, not only on aviation, but on the hearts and minds of northern Colorado. One can only imagine the souls that this atrocious incident impacted, but I know of 4 people personally have lived their lives with these memories that string along year after year. Conrad Hopp was 17 at the time and helped in recovering the mangled bodies who were buried 12 inches into the ground and whose bodies were like bags of jello due to the impact. Conrad has lived with these images in his memory for almost 90 years. Phil Burley, the guy that I mentioned, his parents were managers of Johnson's Corner. Phil Burley, who was only 5 at the time, was traveling with his parents, Clayton and Betty, to visit his grandmother when they saw the fireballs in the eastern sky. Phil's parents were the managers of Johnson's Corner and provided food and coffee to the multitude of police, firemen, and other first responders. Phil remembers the silhouettes of 2 bodies still strapped in the airplane seats with the burning flames nearby. Rick Tittle from Johnstown, who was not born at the time, but is so passionate about spreading the word about Flight 629 and getting it memorialized because his mother had mentioned it to him when he was a youngster. They had seen something like a wreck on I-25, and his mother said, "Boy, I haven't seen this much activity since that airplane crash." And then she proceeded to talk about that Flight 629, and Rick was so enthralled about that and so interested in that, and he is probably around 70 years old today, and he's so passionate about getting a memorial established. And the other person, Marion Pappelmeyer, who lost her father in the flight and was born prematurely just a few months after the tragedy, spent much of her life trying to find solace and healing, and only find it ultimately later in life and true to her faith. It will soon be 2025. 70 years after Flight 629 disaster, a memorial needs to be established for these victims and the multitude who helped recovery of this crash. So that is my article. It kind of goes on to say, please contribute, but our committee is kind of splintered, so I don't know what's going to go on. But for posterity, I just want to show you, and this is all going to be houses one day. Barefoot Lakes right over here. I have contacted Brookfield. They are developing this area with houses, and I asked them, hey, can you establish a little memorial for Flight 629? And they said, nah, we don't want to. It's already too hard to sell these houses as it is, and we don't need anybody coming along and creating controversy that this was a area where 44 bodies were recovered from a airplane that was blown up by 25-6 dynamite by Jack Graham. There are very strange coincidences involved with this. I said about Jack and Daisy Brubaker. So they had the same names. Jack Graham, or John Graham, was the guy that wanted to blow up Flight 629 with his mom Daisy, and that they shared their names. Isn't that weird? And for example, Phil Beerley, his dad's name was Clayton, and Jack Graham, he grew up in Denver in a I have a video about that too. He grew up in a kind of a foster home type place that was called Clayton School, or Clayton Orphanage. I hate to call it an orphanage, but I guess it was an orphanage. And so many things that coincidence happen in these times. But yeah, this is Flight 629 crash site, and they are building like crazy. If you go a couple miles that way, that's Firestone. Alright guys, this is George Sawtooth. This is probably my final video about Flight 629. Just wanted to come out here. There's a few ghost stories as well too. I don't want to say anything about that. The Rodemakers had a few stories about ghosts, but I don't want to. They wanted to come out and do a video, but then they decided not to. But alright, God bless. Take care. Bye.